Here are 14 spine-tingling lottery stories that will give you nightmares. Some of these unfortunate lottery winners met brutal ends at the hands of murderers, while others fell victim to the haunting consequences of sudden wealth. Number 14. Abraham Shakespeare. Abraham Shakespeare was an ordinary man with an extraordinary stroke of luck. In 2006, he won a staggering $40 million from the Florida lottery. He was a high school dropout and a convict who couldn't even read. But destiny led him to that moment. He shared a few bucks with a coworker who bought the tickets that changed their lives forever. However, with fortune comes envy, and Abraham's trouble started. His coworker claimed that the winnings weren't rightfully his, and he dragged him to court. The court ruled in Abraham's favor, but this was only the beginning of his struggles. Everyone wanted a share of his newfound wealth. He opened his heart and gave it to anyone who asked. Little did he know that this act of kindness would lead to his downfall. Dee Moore was a cunning and manipulative woman who took advantage of Abraham's vulnerability. She claimed to be interested in writing about his experiences and offered to manage his money. But Moore had darker plans. She began spending his fortune on luxury cars, lavish gifts, and she even seized his home. The more she took, the deeper Abraham sank into her web of deceit. And then, one fateful night, the truth was revealed. She murdered Abraham and buried him beneath concrete slabs at her boyfriend's house. But things didn't stop there. Moore was desperate to conceal her heinous crime, so she fabricated messages, making it seem as if Abraham was still alive. She went so far as to bribe his family to falsely testify that they had seen him. The darkness within her knew no boundaries. However, justice has a way of finding its path through the shadows. Truth prevailed, and Dee Moore was convicted of first-degree murder, while Abraham was killed by someone he confided in. The story of the next lottery winner is even more grim as he faced his worst fears. Number 13. Jonas Lucas Alves Diaz. Meet Jonas Lucas Alves Diaz, who hit a jackpot of over $9 million at the Medicina lottery. However, this wealth soon turned into one of his harrowing nightmares. He rejoiced, and his dreams seemed within reach. After 2 years, fate guided him down a path of misery. He was in a hospital bed where he lay battered and fractured, and he departed this world at just 55. There was a lot of mystery around his death, but soon the truth unfolded. He was kidnapped and subjected to merciless beatings for over 20 hours, and the motive behind this heinous act was money. Jonas's unchanged habits led to his downfall. His enemies knew his routine and his privilege. A regular walk turned into an eternal absence. His family was witness to the fact that money had taken away all the happiness from their lives. The Specialized Division of Criminal Investigations confirmed the chilling truth. Jonas's kidnappers knew him. They plotted, and they struck without mercy. After his death, they tried to drain his wealth. Despite their failed attempt to transfer $600,000, the damage was already in motion. They somehow managed to snatch around $4,000 through other means. Jonas's killers were a mystery. Unlike our next story, where William Post had a near-death experience when his brother wanted him murdered, which he somehow survived. However, after that, life wasn't a bed of roses for him. Number 12. William Post II. Now let's talk about the man whose life changed forever when he won a staggering $16 million. The world thought that William Post II's dreams had come true. However, they were all unaware of the true horrors that were about to unfold. Within just 3 months, his fortune was gone. It was due to bad investments, extravagant indulgences, and reckless generosity. People flocked to him like vultures, draining him of his wealth and leaving him in ruins. William wasn't just broke. He was drowning in $500,000 of debt. The nightmare was only beginning. In a cruel twist of fate, the real horror revealed itself within the very core of his family. His brother, consumed by greed and envy, ordered a hitman to end William's life. Yet it was William who ended up behind bars. He was convicted of attempting to harm a bill collector in an attempt to escape his financial doom. Ultimately, the wealth that promised happiness and freedom transformed into horror. 2006 marked the year when William Post II's haunting journey reached its heart-wrenching finale. He was a victim of respiratory failure at 66. William's unfortunate tale has a closure, unlike our next story that seemed like a never-ending nightmare. Number 11. Willie Hurt. A twist of fate in 1991 changed the life of Willie Hurt. He was an ordinary father of 3 children, and he became the fortunate recipient of a mind-boggling $3.1 million lottery win. The thrill of wealth was short-lived as a dark force was ready to wreak havoc on his life. He was entangled in the grip of addiction. The once celebrated winner plunged into the darkness of cocaine, where broken dreams taunted him. The fortune that once held the promise of salvation became his tormentor as the drug-fueled chaos peaked. A sinister turn of events intertwined with Willie's pitiful reality. He committed an unspeakable act of horror. Willie murdered an innocent soul, but justice soon prevailed. His wealth transformed into ash, leaving behind the ruins of a life lost to the void. Willie's once glittering fortune was now a distant memory. He faced the consequences of his monstrous deeds. Number 10. Doris Murray. Let's uncover the nightmarish tale of fate's twist in hand and the deadly price that comes with a stroke of luck. The story is of Doris Murray, a woman whose lottery win turned her life into a bone-chilling horror tale. Doris's life took a drastic turn when fortune bestowed a gift upon her on her 41st birthday, $5 million, a dazzling sum that promised her a life of luxury and security. But not all riches come with happiness. With yearly payouts of $172,000, Doris could have embraced a comfortable life and made her grandchildren's dreams a reality. Yet she clung to her humble ways, a decision that would prove deadly. There was someone who claimed to love Doris, but that was all a lie. Doris's boyfriend, Derek Lorenzo Stanley, was a jealous and possessive man. Soon his love twisted into something sinister. Amid the celebratory phase, rumors were circulating about the couple's possible breakup and of a new suitor. This made Derek upset, and in a chilling turn, he offered assistance to Doris, whose house had been burnt. However, when her family arrived to help, he blocked them from the truth. He vanished, leaving the family in fear as panic spread like wildfire. Doris's family informed the police that she had gone missing, and a relentless pursuit began to look for her. Finally, the police found her lifeless body, and then began the hunt for Derek. He was soon arrested, and during interrogation, he told lies, claiming a fatal struggle over a knife. But in a moment of chilling truth, he confessed the unspeakable crime of taking Doris's life. Just like Doris, Tiffany also longed for love and was killed by her significant other, but the tale has a slight twist to it. Number 9. Tiffany Hill. Let's recount the gruesome tale of Tiffany Hill, whose life took a tragic and terrifying turn after winning the lottery. In November 2020, Tiffany struck a stroke of luck, winning over $2 million in the lottery. But she was unaware that her newfound fortune would become a deadly curse. Only 8 months later, fate took a turn. Tiffany married John Donato. Everything seemed perfect at first, but soon their love story turned into a nightmare. She wanted to escape her past, and she moved away with her 1-year-old daughter for a fresh start. However, her family knew that something was wrong. Tiffany's relationship with John Donato turned abusive, and that's when she made a brave decision to break free from the clutches of her tormentor. But tragically, the escape plan met a horrifying end. John's rage reached its peak, and he committed an unspeakable act. He ended Tiffany's life and his own. Their innocent child faced the full force of this dreadful incident, suffering fatal injuries. While Tiffany's end was distressing, the next story is even more sorrowful. A husband decided he needed to end the life of the wife he loved after winning the lottery. Number 8. Joseph and Ibai Roncaioli. Dr. Joseph Roncaioli and his wife, Ibai, were a happy pair living a life of comfort. Laden with riches, they faced a sinister twist of fate. The couple got their hands on a $5 million lottery ticket. But this lump sum amount turned their luxurious life into a living nightmare. One day, Joseph made a harrowing discovery. His wife had given away the entire fortune to her secret son, and this left the couple penniless. Dr. Joseph was enraged, and he confronted Ibai. He felt betrayed and decided to take matters into his own hands. He prepared a lethal injection and plunged the venomous needle into Ibai, and he sealed her fate forever. Years later, he stood in the dock, emotionless as his dark deeds were exposed. In the courtroom, Joseph tried to conceal his wicked deed, pretending to be concerned about Ibai's failing health, but his real face was already revealed. Roncaioli's fortune brought nothing but despair, turning love into hate and destroying lives in its wake. If Joseph's story left you petrified, the next story is going to leave you even more startled. Number 7. Lee Coast. Lee Coast was a retiree who thought his golden years would be blissful. $250,000 came knocking on his door in 2007. He seized the opportunity and indulged in luxury and bought a Rolex, and not just one, but 2 Jaguars. But his joy was short-lived. As the word of his newfound wealth circulated like a haunting secret, Lee's life took a twisted turn. His home became a target, subject to a series of relentless burglaries. There were multiple individuals with greed in their hearts who had set their sights on the prize. Among them, 3 18-year-olds and a 26-year-old, united by a twisted desire for wealth. One fateful night, they devised a plan. When Lee took one of the young women to dinner, she left the door unlocked, providing easy access to his vulnerability. The 3 intruders barged in and attacked Lee. They were driven by ruthless greed, and the group brutally beat him, demanding cash and the PIN for his bank card. In the end, they showed no mercy. They pulled the trigger, ending a life filled with dreams and hopes. When the deed was done, they stole his Jaguar and left behind a trail of blood and despair. But they were soon caught due to overspeeding and presented in front of justice. Fortunately, someone agreed to testify against the shooter, Terrence J. Maya. In a desperate bid to save his life, Terrence made a choice. He pleaded guilty to the chilling murder, receiving a life sentence in return. Just like Lee, Ryan met the same end. However, his murderer was never found, and justice was never served. Number 6. Ryan McKechnie. Coming up next is Ryan McKechnie, whose brush with luck proved to be his worst nightmare. It seemed like life had given him a second chance. In 2012, the 31-year-old hit the Irish Lotto, a ray of hope in his troubled life. Alas, fate's wicked sense of humor turned the wheel of fortune against Ryan. After battling drug addiction, Ryan emerged as a source of hope for his 3 children following their mother's tragic passing. His winnings of £40,000, about 50,000 USD, seemed like the lifeline they needed. However, the money vanished like a mirage, stolen by those he thought were friends. Word on the street was that Ryan still had a hidden fortune. It was a heartless deception that would lead to his doom. In February 2014, a tragic event unfolded. Ryan McKechnie was found lifeless in his home. He was stabbed to death. His aspirations lay in ruins, and his family was in disbelief. They searched for justice, but this tale offered no closure. Alas, despite his life going through a down spiral, Ryan never intended to take his life. Number 5. Gerald Muswegon. Gerald Muswegon was a man with hope in his eyes and a heart full of dreams. He stumbled upon a life-changing moment, winning an astounding $10 million. Little did he suspect that this sudden fortune would sow the seeds of his tragic downfall. After getting his hands full, Gerald treated his friends lavishly, and he even bought a house for himself. As the riches grew, so did the darkness that consumed him. To cope with his sorrows, he drowned in alcohol. His life spiraled out of control, one arrest after another. His once prosperous logging business buckled under the weight of misfortune. But fate wasn't done with him yet. In a shocking turn of events, he was arrested for sexual assault against a young 19-year-old girl. The riches that promised happiness became a curse that twisted his soul. He was despondent, and when he had no hope left, he tragically took his own life. While Gerald took his life, the next person in our list had a family member who took one life after another. Number 4. Owen Dillard. Meet Owen Dillard, a simple man with extraordinary luck. He struck the lottery twice in less than a year, but his newfound wealth led him down a path of darkness and despair. Owen's neighbors admired him, not just for his fortune, but for his generous soul. Unfortunately, his days were numbered. He faced the cruel reality of a terminal illness, and he knew that his time was limited. However, he didn't know that time would be stolen from him in the most horrifying way. 2018 was a gloomy year for Owen's family. His fiancée returned home to find him lifeless in a pool of blood. His life was brutally taken in a stabbing, with no trace of the attacker remaining. But the nightmare was far from over. Just a month later, the police arrested Owen's flesh and blood, his nephew Idris Abdul Muhaymin. The man who was once family had turned into a cold-blooded killer. The darkness within Idris led him down a path of destruction. Tragically, in the time between his uncle's murder and his arrest, Idris took another life. The court sentenced him to 24 long years behind bars, but nothing could bring back the lives he stole. Number 3. Billy Bob Harrell Jr. Billy Bob Harrell Jr. and his wife, Barbara Jane, found the key to a kingdom of riches. They had won a Lotto Texas jackpot worth $31 million. Life seemed like a dream. Billy basked in the glory of his newfound wealth, and he showered his loved ones with gifts beyond their wildest imaginations. He bought a ranch, half a dozen homes for family members, and shiny new cars. Without hesitation, he spent generously to make the dreams of his loved ones come true. Billy even contributed to his church and provided aid to people in need. But as the fortune flowed like a river, a dark current began to pull him under. His spending and lending spiraled out of control, and this led Billy down a path of no return. His personal life crumbled. Billy and his wife, Barbara Jane, drifted apart. He was alone and devastated, and was haunted by the demons that wealth had unleashed. One day he locked himself in a bedroom, pressed a shotgun against his chest, and pulled the trigger. During his final days, he confided in a financial advisor, and he told him that winning the lottery was the worst thing that ever happened to him. While Billy wished he had never won the lottery, David Lee Edwards was a winner that got everything he always wanted, but happiness. Number 2. David Lee Edwards. Next up, we have the harrowing tale of David Lee Edwards, an ex-con from Kentucky. His life took a twisted turn after winning $27 million in the Powerball jackpot. At first, the future looked bright for David and his wife. They sought financial advice to guide them through their newfound wealth. Tragically, darkness loomed nearby. The couple disregarded the advice of their counselors, and they wasted their riches on luxuries and drugs. The bliss of their victory steered them toward ruin. The price of their indulgence was steep. Their reckless drug use resulted in a terrible fate. David and his wife contracted the deadly hepatitis, and their life revolved around only two things: pain and suffering. As years passed, David's health deteriorated. The wealth that could have ensured a prosperous future was of no use now. David was 58 and hospitalized, and he faced a fate where no money could save him. He had regrets. Only if he had listened, he could have been living a life of comfort, bringing in $85,000 a month. Just like Davi's story, the last one of our list has to be one of the worst lottery stories in history. Number 1. Jack Whittaker. Jack Whittaker was a wealthy man, but his life took a harrowing turn when he won a mind-boggling $314.9 million Powerball jackpot. As a multimillionaire, he thought the world was at his feet. However, he was oblivious to the darkness surrounding his newfound wealth. Hundreds of thousands of dollars vanished from his cars, home, and office. All of this was stolen by those he once trusted. Jack was lost in the grip of turmoil. His rage erupted into a brutal assault on a bar manager. He was arrested not once but twice on drunken driving charges. His once radiant existence was trapped in darkness. Jack was even accused of inappropriate behavior, as he had groped women at a racetrack. His actions left a trail of fear and mistrust. As the stars aligned against him, the true horrors were yet to be revealed. In 2004, a grim discovery was made. The lifeless body of his granddaughter was hidden beneath a tarp outside her boyfriend's house. The whispers of fate grew louder, ensnaring his soul. A cruel twist of destiny awaited him. His daughter, too, met an untimely end, leaving sorrow and questions that would never find answers. In their darkest moments, Jack and his wife wished that they had torn the cursed ticket apart, for its riches came at a haunting price. Jack Whittaker indeed faced haunting consequences. But the next lottery winner, Billy, went through so much that he was left with no choice but to take his life. These chilling lottery stories shed light on the consequences of sudden wealth. From tragic murders to self-destructive paths, fortune can lead to nightmares for the winners. If you found this video interesting, then, for more jaw-dropping tales, don't miss our next video on lottery winner stories you won't believe are real. Click the video on your screen now.